All right, Sistas fans, this is the article that people wanted me to break down. Mignon talks about Danni and the fact that she wants fans to cut her some slack when it comes to her situationship with Preston. And of course, I will leave a link to the full article in the comments below. But unlike the articles I've done in the past, talking about, what Ebony had to say about Karen and Aaron and Maurice talking about, Brian talking about Maurice, I think it's very necessary that I talk about this entire article. You might actually hear me reading it to you all the way through, because let me be honest here, and I posted about this in the community tab as well as the Sistas Facebook group. I disagree with a majority of what Mignon is saying. Now, keep in mind, obviously, this is the actor playing the character, and the actors know more about the show than we do, especially in regards to season 3, which has already been filmed and whatnot. The cast are beginning to return to Tyler Perry Studios right now for season 4 filming, but I'm really only judging this based off what she said, because most of the points that she uses to kind of justify why, well, hey, this is why you should get off Danny's back because Preston did this, Preston did that. Most of these points are from like season 1 and early season 2, and Preston kind of rectified those situations. So I don't see how it makes sense into how Danny's been acting as of, the first half of season 3. So before going forward, make sure you take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Yes, even if you disagree, I want to do my best to make all my points. Like, I'll say what Mignon said, but then I'll give my thoughts. But it's just opinion, of course. Also, hit subscribe to help me close in on 200,000 subscribers. Hit the bell notification icon and select all. That way you don't miss out when I post content on this channel. And follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Okay, so yeah, buckle up, because not only do I have the Mignon interview pulled up in front of me, but I also have the Trinity/Preston one as well. That way I can compare notes. But let's break it down. Okay. In most romantic relationships, no one person is all good or all bad. That is what Mignon, the actress who plays Danni on Sistas, wants fans to think about when it comes to her character's undefined relationship with Preston. Now, that much I agree with, because yes, not all the time is one person 100% bad, 100% good. But sometimes the scales are tipped in one person's favor, because, sometimes they're the one who's bringing a lot of issues to the situation. But, okay, when the popular show returns next Wednesday, viewers will see that Danni and Preston are still working out their issues one conversation at a time. I want to use the term conversation loosely. Oh, okay, here's what Mignon says. Danni catches a lot of heat for their relationship, but I want people to take into consideration that Danni is not all wrong, and it takes two. I have to defend my character, and she has been trying to get Preston to hear her out and see her side, but he keeps doing what he wants to do. What? Okay, she goes on to say, Preston should respect Danni's wishes and call before stopping by. And there have been times in the past where Preston has ghosted Danni. First off, that's like season 1. That's season 1, Mignon. That's season 1. I mean, I guess maybe she's referencing different arguments that maybe she's had with fans, because that makes no sense. But then again, I mean, okay, let me read that again. Preston should respect Danni's wishes and call before stopping by, and there have been times in the past where Preston has ghosted Danni. He shouldn't just pop up. That's disrespectful. Mignon adds adamantly. Okay, I'll give her that. Dropping by unannounced. Yeah, that isn't always the best move. He should not abandon her for days without calling or texting. The biggest mistake Danni and Preston made is not defining their relationship. I agree. Both of them do things that make them feel like they're not a couple, even if they are one. Well, just like Fatima and Zach in season 2, I'm talking prior to when, Zach and Karen did the nasty in her office or closet or whatever. Nobody's really defined what they are. Preston has a knack for abandoning Danni, which is not something you do if you're in a relationship. I highly disagree with that. I mean, you could argue that, okay, Preston's either all in or all out. Like, he'll pop up, he'll blow up her phone, but then when she says, don't do it, then he, disappears. But Zach has talked to her on multiple occasions about this. Women say one thing, but then they mean another. It's like, most of the time where Danni told Preston how she felt about something, it was done in a mean-spirited fashion. And if I were Preston, because I actually went back to, look, I read over this article for 3 days. Remember, I've been sick, and I don't even sound like myself all the way, but at least I'm able to talk today. I wanted to do this video so bad when this article dropped, but thankfully I waited. Because I went on BET Plus, where thankfully they have seasons 1 and 2 of Sisters, and I rewatched key moments from the Preston-Danni dynamic from when they first met to the present. And yeah, Zach had, and this was some of my favorite moments in season 1 towards the back half, where Zach had that sit down with Danni and just said, well, hey, you're the one that said back off, essentially. Mignon might feel like Danni's speaking her truth, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if you go back and watch those scenes where Danni literally told Preston, how she felt about him kind of, going over the top. If you listen to how she said what she said, you would literally be in the, okay, I'm just going to back off and do my own thing, because she's literally saying, leave me alone. That's literally it. So, okay, let me just keep going. Trust me, I got more to say. It's also debatable if Danni wanted Preston to move out, or if he left voluntarily in the season 3 mid-season finale. She says, Danni didn't kick Preston out. She just said she needed space. He chose to move out when he could have just as easily gone to the movies. Preston can be so extreme. If Danni isn't saying, oh, Preston, you're perfect in every way, he puts his foot down, gets butthurt, and ignores her for days. All she wants is for him to respect her space. Disagree wholeheartedly. There have been plenty of times where Preston just wants to talk to Danni. How's your day? How are you doing? Is something wrong? You seem a bit off. She will fly off the handle. Usually she's drunk or smoking on something and just go off. And then he's like, I'll go take out the trash or something. Then he comes back. He apologizes even though he did nothing wrong. And when trying to have a simple conversation, she will drown it out in like humor and poke fun. Okay, let me get to the next part. The couple's racial differences, she's black and he's white, only punctuates their problems more. Preston is in his 30s, and he's wanted to date black women all of his life, but he hasn't had time or taken time to learn about the culture. That is a red flag. If a white man says, teach me, they're making it the black woman's responsibility and not their own. If you actually want to learn, there is Google and libraries and documentaries. There are millions of us in centuries of history. It's not our job to teach you. Especially given the events of, 2020, from George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many other stories, as a black man, I can verify that, yes, it's been quite a time. If you go back a year ago, I just remember in the midst of the protests, the rallies, the riots, the looting, all this craziness going on around the country, it alerted some white people who were either oblivious, blind, or voluntarily ignorant to the oppression black people deal with when it comes to law enforcement. And I had white friends, some of whom I haven't seen or talked to in years, text me, DM me, How you doing? What can we do to be better? I kid you not. I even mentioned it a few times last year when this was happening in various videos when it was appropriate. And I will say this much. It almost seems like Mignon is kind of painting Preston to have like a black woman fetish. That's what it kind of seems like. Okay, let me keep going. There's only a couple more paragraphs. Let me read these. And sorry, there's a gnat flying around, and I gotta swing at it. And we'll go over. Okay, there's also an anti-racism culture shift that Mignon hopes Sisters will explore at some point. Like a lot of white men, Preston doesn't realize that not being racist is not enough anymore. You have to do the work. You can't just get by on being nice and not being racist. There are so many things that are built into our society that white people have to unlearn. For Preston to be at his age, I believe she said in his 30s, and not realize that he needs to do the work is sad. Mignon also has a Danni and Preston spoiler. Pay attention to all the times Preston talks about his cousin and working at his cousin's farm, because there's a twist coming. Now, I can't judge this article based on the twist, like is Preston cheating, what's going on? I don't know, but I'm only judging this article based off what we as a fan base do know by what we've seen on screen. Now, while Mignon does make a lot of solid points about white people and, you know, it's not our responsibility to teach, but I will admit though, imagine being in Preston's shoes, man or woman. You know, let's say you're the Preston of your relationship. You're dating someone outside of your race, outside of your religion, what have you, for the first time. If dating a black person, dating an Asian person, dating a Mexican person isn't something you've done before, I don't think it's fully fair to make it kind of like a sin for that person to not know all the triggers of what's being racist, what's being sexist towards that particular nationality of ethnicity of that person. I don't think it's fair. And I'm not saying it because I'm a guy either. It's just that when you look at everything that's been going on, like when Preston, like, what was it, cuffed her to the bed and called her gal. What about all the times Danni did that to Preston? Not the gal part, but, you know, restrain him. Count down all the times somebody has voluntarily offended someone. Danni has mocked Preston's bluegrass, cowboy, white guy culture far more times than Preston has done anything racist. And anytime he's done something quote unquote racist, he's apologized for it, but then also didn't know that it was racist. I know it sounds weird. It's like, Jeremy, you're a black man, and it's like you're defending a white guy. Because even though Trinity is half black, half white in real life, Preston is a white person in continuity of Sisters. But you're defending a white guy. Well, in a way, yes. Seriously, like, I just feel like Preston is being written to be the bad guy here. And this is something that I have against Sisters. It's the fact that a lot of the time the females don't want to acknowledge, hey, maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe instead of blowing things out of proportion whenever Preston does something quote unquote wrong, I can sit him down and explain. Because more often than not, Danni's talking at Preston instead of talking with Preston. Seriously, especially in season 3, the first part, because most of the time she's dismissive. She mocks him when he just wants to have a civil conversation. She literally just throws shade and then goes off. Oh, I'm going to work. I'm going to hang out with the girls. And that's it. And going back to the article with Preston, you know, I just want to skim through it real quick because I mentioned this in my Trinity article video and people did agree, like, yeah, it's a lot of nonsense that it makes it seem like Preston's the one who has to do all the work. Trinity says they can overcome Danni wanting more space, but there has to be dialogue. It's not going to rectify itself overnight, and they can't ignore it and hope things get better on their own. If they want to keep doing that, the frustration, especially from Danni's point of view, it will keep building and festering. Preston has to be the one to start the conversation so that it's not always Danni putting the first foot forward. I'm sorry, but I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because more often than not, Danni, instead of telling Preston how she's feeling, will act irrationally cruel towards him. When all of the people in your life tell you to be patient, why don't you talk to him? She does the opposite. She's more willing to talk. I mean, hell, Sabrina does the same thing with Calvin. She'll talk to all of her friends about the situation, you know, whether or not he's straight or whatever. And they'll say, why don't you just talk to him? Why don't you just talk to him and believe what he says? Why are you so worried about what everybody else thinks? And it's crazy because at the start of season 2, Danni was the sister, like the one everybody loved. Her and Preston were chilling while everybody else in their relationships, if you want to call it that, are just falling apart. But it seemed like the wild girl of the group, Danni, was the one who had the most stable relationship. But now Danni's causing the most problems within her own little relationship bubble, and I don't feel bad for her. I really don't. And I mean, go back to what she said to Preston in the mid-season finale. Instead of simply saying, I think, you know, we moved too fast, and you know, I did like what she said about what do we have in common aside from liking sex? Why don't we go out instead of just staying cooped up? And I mean, literally going back to what I said earlier about the whole ghosting and disappearing, based off how Danni presents information to Preston, one would assume like, yeah, okay, I'll just back off and be gone. But then all of a sudden, Danni feels like she has the right to complain and say, men ain't shit, Preston, oh yeah. But no, you're the one who ran him off. So I disagree that it's fully on Preston. Like, Preston has to do everything. If that's the case, Preston is definitely far more invested in this quote-unquote relationship than Danni. And I know some people are quick to, point out, what I say about Preston paid, like 3 months rent and this and that. He cooks and cleans. And as far as I can tell or remember, I think the one questionable thing he did was invite his sister over for dinner without telling Danni first. To me, that was like the first time that he really was like, yeah, dude. I mean, even though you're staying there, you could have told her, especially after the negative experience she had with your half brothers at the airport. But even then, he learned. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I'll let you know ahead of time and ask you. But other than that, when has he been this disrespectful? And no, not the whole disappearing and ghosting her, because that's season 1 shit. In the past season, tell me, I'll wait. Seriously, in the comments, let me know when Preston has been out of pocket. Seriously. Because it could have been written in a way where the interracial relationship could have been a cool dynamic because of the problems it presents, with Preston and his family. And, Danni could be like, oh, wow, what will people think of me dating a white dude? It's like in the same vein as Sabrina. What is it? What will people say about me dating a questionable man? It's just one of those things where if the story was told right, it could have been done very well. But I don't really see the point of painting Preston to be the one who has to learn everything. Like I said before earlier in the video, I'm black. I've never dated an Asian woman before. Let's say I were to date one. I would have to learn some things and, just be like, okay, what's considered racist, things like that. So, but he hasn't taken the time to learn about the culture. That's a red flag. Teach me. I'm sorry, but if I were in their shoes, I would be doing the same thing. Like, what good is it to give me? I mean, I could Google an expansive list of rules and regulations about what's racist and what's not, but guess what? You can have 50 black people in the same room. Not every black person is going to say the same. Not every person is going to agree that everything is racist. You know, like if they had like maybe a list of 10 different things, including slogans and behavior traits and whatnot, will every person in that room think it's ghetto? Will they think it's racist? I don't think it would. So I would say that Danni, if she sat down and had a good conversation with Preston, they could make some progress on both sides. But I just feel like Mignon is not disrespectfully, but, you know, kind of clapping back to the haters by painting Preston to be the one who's in the wrong, because nowhere in this article did I ever see where Danni was pointed out to be the one, you know, messing up. So this isn't a hate video on Mignon's character, but this is just my thoughts on how I heavily disagree with a lot of the points made in her article / interview. So you can read the article for yourself. Trust and believe, I read the entire thing here. I'll leave a link in the comment section below. What do you think? Do fans deserve to cut? I mean, does Danni deserve some slack when it comes to the fans and their reaction to how she treats Preston? Because trust and believe, I am not on Danni's side here. So, like I said before, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.